So our next speaker is Josh Stock. You guys might have heard of Josh. I do have a not as good impression of Josh. It's Randy. Where are my slides? My slides aren't ready. These aren't my slides. I can't work with this.
Hey, thanks. I was going to stand up here and tell you all how great I think Randy is, but then he threw Nick under the bus so much that I was like, well, Nick needs to pick me up. And now I'm going to throw Randy under the bus because Randy's like, yo, dude, I want this super professional, so like we have to act professional. He's always telling me this. And so I'm like, yeah, cool, okay, yeah, no. He's like, it has to be 15 minutes, max. You can't stand up there and Josh happy rant. Like, you have to do this thing. We're doing this professional. Like, that's the thing. So I come and I'm like, okay, how are you working your notes? He's like, I don't have notes. I'm like, you don't have notes? He's like, no, dude, I'm just stand up there and talk. I'm like, you are the worst. So anyway, I have notes. So I'm gonna just sort of do this thing and press these buttons. Hey, SFC has problems. That's news. I think this was supposed to be first. Yeah, there. I'm not good at slides, so. SFC has problems. I'm Josh. That was the joke. There's my joke. That's it. Thank you. Okay, so I'm Josh. I know some of you, most of you, many of you, some of you know me. I'm married to Valuable. She's back there. Got 2 little ones around. Yeah. I'm a snowboarder-ish. I'm a pastor-ish. We live at Copper Mountain in Colorado. And I'm going to look at my notes. Check this out. Man, I'm so pro, Randy. Don't you wish you were as pro like... Okay, so this is a rough history of... is there a little... Oh, look at this thing. So there's been like 3 waves of SFC's movement and how I interact with that. Back in the mid-90s, I sort of felt this calling. I told my first snowboarder about Jesus. I was on a chairlift, and I remember failing miserably at that. And then I ran away from the calling until about 2002. After I dropped out of college the first or second time, amen. I ended up finding my way back into missions, and I ended up in Japan for a whole season in 2002 with the guys who founded SFC. In 2004, we'll just sort of fast track through this. 2004, we started a chapter in Summit County in Colorado. I'd never been there before, but a friend was like, you want to come? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I got nothing going on in my life. So we went there and we said, hey, for a year or 2, let's help this guy start this mission, this Snowboarders and Skiers for Christ thing. 15 years later, I'm still there. He's been gone for 10 years or something. I'm a terrible planner. So anyway, in 2000, 6, 7, somewhere in there, we started, after we started our local chapter, we started helping the people around the U.S. They said, hey, we want to do something like you're doing. We're like, yeah, do it. I don't know, go ahead. And so we started visiting people, just sort of hanging out, going, what do you do here? How do you be a snowboarder for Jesus? What's a skier for Jesus look like here in Hood? And then about 5 years ago, we took on the international role, and now my title is the international team captain, because I don't want to be a coach because a coach sits on the bench, but I still want to be doing the thing. I still have, there we go. So I'm Josh, SFC has problems. There's only one of me. It sounds like a braggart thing, but there is only one of me, and there's only one of you, and I think that's fun. I find myself, like, in the church, I'm kind of the weirdo because I'm a snowboarder, but on the hill with the snowboarders, I'm kind of a weirdo because I'm the Christian. Like, I don't really fit anywhere. I'm just sort of a misfit in all of the places, and that's okay. I think lots of you look like misfits too. We can be misfits together. But there can be only one. Have you ever, there was a movie quote like that? Yeah, there you go. There can be only one. So I'm the only one, and that's good. There's only one of you too. Look at my notes, dude. No 2 of us are alike. So the interesting thing for us is, how do we lead a bunch of misfits? Like, how do we lead a group of weirdos? That's our challenge with SFC. How do you herd cats? Great question. And that's one of our problems. The more I travel now, over the past, 5 or 6 years, been traveling internationally, and whether we're in France or Japan or Australia or this weird country called Canada, no matter where we are, we keep realizing, wow, everybody is super different. And this group of people we work with, every community is super different. Every person is super different. How the heck? Why are we here? how are we supposed to be organizing these people together? And not only are we all different, we're all still changing. I started doing this when I was, 16, and started doing SFC when I was 23 or something. Now I'm 38. It should come as no surprise that I don't still minister like I did when I was 15 years old. I'm not still ministering now at 38 like I did 15 years ago. I'm different. I've changed I'm growing up, Mom. I swear. We're changing. We're constantly changing. And I'm now ministering to a different corner of my community. I split board now. Gosh. I've split boarded to hike rails too, though. You hit the rail and then you take it off, put the skins on, go back up, let's put it together, hit the rail, stop, and that's how I do it. You got to earn your rails. I don't know. So anyway, we're all super different. We're all still changing. Which, here's the thing, either requires our system to either change or break. So because we started doing SFC at 23, now we're 38, is SFC now broken? Or is SFC broad enough that I can still be ministering at 38? And lots of people across the world are dealing with this because they're like, oh, we started this thing 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and now I've got kids. I'm not like I was when I was 20. It's like, well, of course not. You're 40. You're not 20 anymore. You don't have the same amount of time and resources. All this. Like, we're different. But isn't God still in that? Isn't it to be a snowboarder for Jesus? Can't we still be doing this? So, our diversity is our problem. That's our problem, is our diversity, how different we are. But it's also our strength. Okay? Hang with me here. We are our strength. You are our strength. Jeez, us? Jesus. See what I did there, Randy? Hey, this has a laser pointer on it. I'll get you. Man, I'm hilarious. But seriously, Jesus in us. It's like Marcus was talking about. Jesus lives in us. The creator of the universe has chosen to make his residence in us. And we're all super weird. We're the stinky toe, the pinky toe. We're still the part of the body. Every one of us, you and I, we're all part of this body. We're all super different. We all have our parts with one head, with one purpose. We're all super unique. But Jesus, the creator of the universe, the one who spoke and billions of galaxies, don't get me started on space. The one who spoke galaxies into existence lives inside you and lives inside me. And that's pretty powerful. And we think that as a snowboarder for Jesus, as a skier for Jesus, as a split boarder for Jesus, is what I'm calling myself now. Every one of us should be able to own this thing. We should be able to personalize this calling and say, man, Jesus lives in me, and I am going to go out and change the world in my community. I'm going to go do it with the power of Jesus who lives in me, in my way, in my church, in my community, in my relationship with the Father, on my shred hill. If there's one box, I'm going to hike that box, and I'm going to be the light of Jesus there. So we think it's super important that we're all out there doing this thing, personalizing this thing. So I'm going to introduce to you the new SFC Trailmap. We're sort of reanimating this guy, and it's going to be how to lead a movement of snowboarders and skiers for Jesus, because that's essentially what it was. So what you hold in your hand now is the new Trailmap. It's simple. It's super clever. Dave's here, the designer, Dave. There he is. He's hiding with his hat down. Yeah, dude, he crushed it on this thing. So this guy is, it's simple, it's clever. It's actually made of limestone. It's not paper at all. It's called limestone film. No trees were harmed in the making of these trail maps. And we've made like 16,000 of them. What?
What about where they mine it? Uh-oh.
Great question. But it is non-toxic. Yeah, call me out later, dude. This is the most eco-friendly we could go, I promise you. It's non-toxic. They don't use any bleaches. They don't use any chemicals, whatever. Yes, we're trying our hardest. Dang it. Poor stones. Who will weep for the stones? It's water resistant. It sounds expensive because it was. But this thing is really cool because it feels different. Most people we've shown this to, they grab it and they go, oh, what is this? Like, and who designed this? Like, people notice that there's something different about this. And we think we should do things really well. Shouldn't we? Shouldn't we create really good things, especially when we're talking about our calling from the Most High Creator? Shouldn't we create really good things, really good quality things? Yes, we should. Thanks for backing me up on that one. You threw me under the bus on the last one, but so we did this well because we thought that was important. Why? Why the heck did we do this? Because, first of all, our personal calling should be simpler than a 70-page manual, right? The simple calling that we're all called to, especially a 70-page manual that happened accidentally over the course of 10 years. But many of the people we work with, snowboarders and skiers who love Jesus across the world, have said, hey, dude, this guy in France, he's like, listen, man, the closest church is 2.5 hours from me. I don't know a single snowboarder who loves Jesus. I don't know another one. Until I met you guys, and I'm like, yeah, I live 15 hours from you. Until I met you guys, I don't know a single snowboarder who loves Jesus, but I think I'm a snowboarder for Jesus. But I can't do this. I can't run a group. I can't run events. I'm one person, and I don't even know. The closest church is 2.5 hours. What do I do? Does this mean I'm not welcome to be a snowboarder for Jesus because I can't run a group? And we're like, heck no, dude. Like, if anybody is a snowboarder for Jesus, because this guy's out on the hill telling people about Jesus, praying for guys, like, I'm like, you're a snowboarder for Jesus. What we've done here is we went straight to step 2 or step 6 or something, and we forgot the personalization, the simplification of our calling. And so what this does is it simplifies, and it just sort of cleverly repackages the calling that all of us feel anyway. It's our first step. It defines and unites the calling. This is not... we didn't make this to say, hey, every snowboarder and skier who loves Jesus in the world, the SFC-based support office in the USA is going to lay some rules down for all you guys, right? This isn't why we did this. This is a culmination of the combined input. We created this committee of like dozens of people. Old folks, retirees, young, we had a couple teenagers who were going through this information. We've got Japanese, we've got all types, all kinds, moms of skiers, we've got backcountry kids, park rats. We tried to gather as many unique people from our culture to give their input on this thing and say, hey, you know what's really important? You know what we should make sure we don't forget to mention? How we're part of the church. Make sure we don't forget to mention. And we've combined all this input from all these different people, essentially because that's super effective and super powerful and super relevant, but also because for 25 years people have been going, hey, I'm a skier for Jesus. What does that mean exactly? People have been sort of rehashing this calling together for 25 years. And so we tried to do it justice and get all these different people involved because we think that makes us actually better together. And we've interpreted this thing now into 4 different languages. We have it in German, French, and Spanish. And what we didn't do was give them the English document and say, translate this English document word for word and then pass it around to your French buddies. We said, hey, let's talk about this information and how would a French person say this? What would be really, how would you interpret this information? Don't translate it, but interpret it. And we've got French acronyms and, people have been super creative about putting this into their language, into their culture's language, not just translating it from English, but doing it in their own home language because it means more and it feels more legit. We've got Spanish. I helped make Spanish acronyms. So fun. Okay, so anyway, it defines us. It unites the calling. It personalizes and validates the calling. A lot of times people are like, oh, why doesn't Randy do it? He gets paid to do this, kind of. I've seen his paycheck. He doesn't really get paid to do this. People think, that's for those guys to do. That's not for me. But we want people to feel like they have permission, that that their calling in your town is valid. It's super important. God has hand selected you. He's hand chosen you to go and be his light in your community. And we think that's really important that people hear that from this document. And then lastly, it expands the potential for the calling across the entire globe, in every corner, in every discipline of the sport, whether you're a racer or you're a grommet or you're a backcountry guy or you're whatever. We think that personalizing this calling to every one of us should be the first step before we send everyone out. So, some of you might have questions. Is this too simple? No. Next question. Is this just another structure? Is this another acronym? Are we over-structuring this thing? And will this limit our outreach? The reason we took this other book and said that's not a trail map, this is what a trail map is because what a ski resort trail map does is it sets these really wide boundaries. Hey, Gus, good to see you. It sets these really wide boundaries and it says, hey, somewhere within these larger boundaries is a safe zone. Get down however the heck you want, whichever run you feel comfortable on, at your own pace, at your own whatever. But this is what we all agree is a kind of a safe zone. This is essentially what this is. For 25 years, we've been refining what does it mean to be a snowboarder or skier for Jesus, whether you're in Japan or you're in New Hampshire or whatever. And this is kind of a safe zone. This is a really broad, big, wide safe zone. Somewhere in there, get the heck down the hill however you feel, right? That's why we think that's cool, because that's what a trail map is, and that's what this thing is. It leaves room for the work of the Spirit. This one's Randy's question. So does this individualizing of the calling, does it poo-poo away the chapter model that we've grown to love? I put poo-poo on the screen, Randy. I knew you'd be the first one to laugh. He's blushing. So the problem is, with people who are individuals in places, Randy's like, well, can't they be a skier for Jesus? And he's like, yeah, but then what about all the things we've done with the chapter? Like, aren't chapters still good? And I'm like, yes, of course chapters are still good. That's how the U.S. movement grew, was groups, was chapters. So in no way are we saying, hey, forget your chapter. Just be an individual skier for Jesus, and don't worry about organizing anything. Marcus talked about organization, how important it is. We're not devaluing or disqualifying the chapter model. If anything, we think that personalizing the calling through this specific effort is going to help to diversify your community. This should be able to help you reach into different corners of your community. If I all of a sudden want to be a split boarder and I go and buy a split board, now there's been nobody in Summit who's been trying to reach the split boarders for Jesus. So great, now I can do that, and I can leave Ryan in the park with the other guys. No, you don't want to. So it actually starts to create that hub model. We were talking about that last year, and actually I have a video here. I don't know if it's going to work or not. But Brett Davis, we're always stealing things from Christian surfers. But they've been doing this thing called the hub model. As they all age, they're like, man, I find myself in a different niche in my community, but there's still other guys who are reaching these other corners of our community. And this should essentially broaden our calling in each of our communities so that we can be reaching more people. Because for the longest time in Summit County, we're trying to reach these young people, but it's like, well, who are reaching the teenage kids, and who's reaching the moms of the Groms? Who's hanging out in the backcountry? We're only really reaching one tiny little selection of people in our community. As we personalize this calling, it should actually grow out.
Hi, I'm Brett Davis, been involved here with surfing for, my goodness, like over 45 years, and with Christian surfers for some 42 years. Surfing's changed a lot, and the board I learnt to surf on, this kind of thing, to the boards I'm currently riding today. And it's not just the equipment, the whole surfing culture has changed. A big thing is it's become multi-craft. The diversity of surfing equipment is vast. It's become multi-sex. more guys and girls surfing together than ever before. Estimated nearly 1/3 of emerging surfers are women. And more importantly, it's become multi-generational. There's such a diversity of grandfathers through to their sons, to grandsons and daughters are all in the water surfing together. So how do we as Christian surfers seek to reach that group? For the last 37 years, I ran a club, which was predominantly a male shortboard teenage group of guys, which is very important. It makes up a significant part of the surfing community. But it's so much larger, and it fails on two accounts. Firstly, it doesn't engage Christians who surf who want to be involved in our ministry if they're not interested in that club. And secondly, it misses the wider range of surfers who are in our community today who might not fit that club model. So what's the solution to that development? Well, it's to take up mountain biking. Not really. I'm suggesting that we transition from a club to a hub. This is suitable not only in Christian surfers, but so many other action sports which have become multi-generational, multi-craft, multi-sex. In any wheel, there's a hub. And in the model I'm talking about, that hub represents a core of active, mission-minded Christians, in my case, who surf. The rim represents the wider surfing community. It's so diverse. And maybe in the 70s, it was a fairly small rim of predominantly male, young, single people. Now that rim's expanded to such a greater diversity. And the spokes represent the connection that this hub has with its rim. The connections that this group of surfers uniquely have with their sector of the surfing community. We still have the Christian Surfer Club, which is the predominantly teenage male group. But it's now only one spoke, not the one and only thing. But within our little hub now, we have members of all of our local board rider clubs. That can be your spoke, the board rider club. But you don't have to be involved in any other program at all. There's another spoke for this event, the Paddle Against Poverty. And we've got someone who champions that, and the rest of the hub rallies around that unique community engagement event. And we have another group for older, cross-generational surfers called the Shaping Bay. And I've got a group of people connect with that. Within our group, we've got someone involved with a community aid project called Waves for Water. So the whole transition from a club where one size has got to try and fit all, which doesn't work, to a hub where we have multiple people engaging through multiple spokes to reach the wider community. So how does all this hold together? Well, it's absolutely vital that that hub meets together at least once a month. We need to be a community, not just a committee running events and programs. So meeting once a month, encouraging each other, holding each other accountable so that all of these spokes are maintained and healthy, and the wider impact in our community is also healthy. So a healthy hub with accountable spokes means a meaningful engagement in our wider community.
I like the fact that various people involved in different networks can come together for a common mission.
You know, if one person's doing one thing and needs some support, they can call on the hub and they can go and support their friend that's doing that thing. So it just has a support group with intentional relationship, but also different ways to serve in. So I think it's really cool.
Traditionally, Christian Surfers was a promise group. Now it's a hub model. Get to connect with a greater diversity of people and spur each other on.
Yeah, the hub is about community to me. It's, you know, my spoke of that hub is the Paddle Against Poverty, I guess you would say, and the other spokes are getting in behind that and they support it and they encourage it. I can get in and support their spokes, their ministries, and we can also, it's all just relational, it's unified, it's the body coming together.
After 42 years with Christian Surfers and 37 years just having the one spoke of the club, the last 5 years with this hub has just had a profound impact in my local mission. I've engaged a far greater diversity of mission-minded Christians who surf from multiple churches, and we're reaching and having a greater impact in a greater diversity of my surfing community. It's been one of the greatest leadership and structural changes I've ever done in 42 years.
Brett Davis, what a dude. So we're not just stealing another idea from them, but as much as it seems we are, But we think that's a good example. As we personalize this calling, it will help us to reach a larger percentage of our community because we diversify the calling.